So I'm going to do something a little crazy up here. And to do this, not to scare you or anything, I need 5 volunteers that are women who like to play. You won't have to say anything, but you like to play. There's 1. Who else? 2, 3. Come on up. 4, Kelly. Who else? 1 more. Come on. I need 1 more. 5. Come on up. Give them a round of applause. Woohoo! I tell you, this is what the spiritual journey is about, is when the opportunity is there, is like you say yes. So I acknowledge the courage that is you. Okay, so here's their first challenge, just like a little team building challenge. Put yourself in order of height. We gotta, yes, and let's do the tallest over here and the least tall over here. Who's the tallest? Kelly's got some hair going, so you got the hair advantage. I think, what do you think? Is that it? It's like The Price is Right, isn't it, where you kind of juggle everything around? Is that good? Okay, well, thank you for being here. So I brought a little a visual aid, clearly. And these women represent what in Russia is called a matryoshka. It's fun to say. You want to try it with me? Matryoshka! So this is a Russian nesting doll, and these are symbols. If you're ever given a matryoshka doll, or a Russian nesting doll, it's a blessing. And it's a blessing of fertility. The word matryoshka actually means mother. And it's also a blessing of perpetuation, of that which can continue to grow and expand. So there is a story, a Russian folk tale, that goes back to how these originated and what these represent. So I have here in my family, and here represented amongst us, there is a grandmother, our grandmother here. And then we have our mother, right here, yes, so this is the mother figure. And there are 3 sisters. So we have our eldest sister, yes, and then there is the middle child, that would be me and my family. Middle child, Kelly, all right, middle sister. And then there is the little one at the center. This is Oksana. Oh, she's so cute. Okay, so this is Oksana, she's the little one. Now the thing to know is that Oksana, now you get to be the people, okay? So this is sort of like an improv thing. So Oksana, the thing to know about Oksana is Oksana loves to run down the mountain. She lives on top of a mountain. She loves to run down the mountain. But whenever she runs down the mountain, she always brings one of her sisters with her, because there are wolves down the mountain. So go ahead, amongst yourselves. So Oksana is going to pick one of her sisters, and they're going to just frolic and have a great time, running down the mountain and having a great time. Now, there we go, and off they go. So one day, this family of women, they all come together in their home at the top of the mountain. So they're all together, and they're preparing for a festival. And what they're doing is they're creating these magnificent scarves for the festival. And in fact, the eldest sister creates a scarf especially for Oksana. It fits her perfectly, and Oksana loves the scarf. She loves it. She's mesmerized by it. And her mother sees the joy that she has with this scarf, and she says, why don't you go out and play? Don't go too far, but just enjoy your new scarf. And so Oksana leaves the women who are still working on other scarves, and she leaves the house and starts swirling and dancing and appreciating the beauty. So good. She's here to play, isn't she? So she's just mesmerized by the scarf. But the thing that happens is she's so enthralled by the beauty of the scarf and the way it drifts in the wind, she doesn't realize how far she is drifting from home. She wanders down the mountain. And as she does, at one point, the middle sister takes a break from her sewing, looks out the window, and sees, Oksana is down at the bottom of the mountain, flitting around. She sees this little dab of color. It's like, mother, grandmother, sisters, we must go save Oksana. So off they go down the mountain to all of them. And when Oksana sees them, she has this moment of awareness. Like, oh my gosh, I didn't know I had drifted so far from home. And in her joy, her family embraces her. Oh, and together, embraced, they walk back up the mountain. Yes! Give them a round of applause. They're like, we're not stopping until we're home. We're not stopping until we're home. We're home. We're home. Are you home? Round of applause for our volunteers. You all are fantastic. Blessings. And that is the story of the matryoshka family. No, it's my scarf. Give me that. It's beautiful, isn't it? It's so beautiful. Have you ever had those things in your life that kind of, you get lost in them and you find yourself just mesmerized in something, and then there's that awakening moment and you realize, wait a minute, where am I? How did I get here? And you realize that maybe you've drifted far from your spiritual core. You ever have those moments of, whoops, I got a little distracted here? Like, life has all kinds of shiny things that catch our attention and have us wander far from our spiritual home. So today is about the process of aligning, as in spiritual disciplines, aligning 5 spiritual disciplines so that we can, in our awareness, we can make our way back up the mountain. And this is a process. As you're listening, I invite you to listen for yourself in your own spiritual journey. Like, is my journey balanced? And to listen in a broader sense as a spiritual community, because these disciplines that work in your own life are also important to express in a church environment or in a spiritual community like this one. So there's a quote by Nietzsche that I love. It's about climbing up mountains. He says, "Whenever I climb, I am followed by a dog named Ego." Whenever I climb, you know that dog? You ever tried to climb to high places and you have that dog named Ego, and maybe your dog isn't a good dog? You know that dog that, like, you know, it's like, oh, there's a squirrel, and so he's off, and it's like you're trying to keep up with that dog. So ego can get a bad rap. And sometimes I hear in New Thought circles we need to get rid of the ego. But the problem is your ego is yourself. So you can't get rid of it until you die. So you're kind of stuck with the ego. So what do we do with the ego? The thing is, that journey up the mountain, if your ego is disciplined, it can be an amazing journey. And so that's what we aspire to. Anyone ever watch that show, The Dog Whisperer, with Cesar Millan? So this guy, yeah, I love that show. So he takes these people who have these dogs who are completely out of control. And they're thinking, you know, I can't keep this dog. This dog is too crazy. And so they bring Cesar Millan in here, and he sees the dog, and he goes, shh, and the dog goes, like suddenly it's this like fabulous dog. You're like, what happened to my dog? And wouldn't it be great if your higher self could do that to your ego? Wouldn't that be great? Like, shh. And the ego goes, what do you want? What do you want? Where are you going? Okay, I'm with you. I'm with you. That'd be awesome. That's the goal. And it takes discipline to be able to do that. So there are 5 specific spiritual disciplines. Now, the nice thing is this isn't really a big secret. If you were to look to Jesus when they asked him, the disciples said, how do we pray? He kind of spelled it out. And what he said, it's interesting. If you ever really looked at the Lord's Prayer and thought, what am I actually praying for? In the beginning, it's an invocation. Our Father in heaven, your name is sacred. Hallowed be thy name. It's an invocation. So the beginning is all invocation. The next part is actually the prayer. It's like, what am I praying for? Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come. Thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. That's the prayer. And in unity, what we mean by that is on earth being our physical reality as it is in heaven, which is the spiritual realm. So what we're praying for is, let me manifest in my life, in my community, on my planet, those things that are in alignment, that are an expression of my spiritual nature. So let me take the love that is spirit and manifest it in my life. Let me take the peace that is spirit and manifest it in my community and in the world. Let me take compassion and manifest it. That's what it means on earth as it is in heaven. It's an alignment of our spiritual selves. It's having that dog that heals. It's like, wherever you go, Master Spirit, I am going to go with you. That's the alignment that we're talking about. So Jesus said, you know, here's how you do it. He kind of spelled it out. And there are actually 5 different areas that we'll kind of sum up here in our little matryoshka dolls. Now, we'll start with the tiniest one, which may seem like the least significant. But really, this one is the one at the core of them all. And this spiritual discipline is the discipline of communion, or your prayer practice, your meditation practice. This is where everything begins. This is the faith of the mustard seed, and it is there at the center of everything else when we are aligned. So this is that divine will that we know God. Jesus commanded us to do 2 things: love God, love each other. This is the love God part. Have that practice. So what is your communion practice? If you don't have this one lined up, what starts to happen, how you can recognize it, is we start thinking we have to make things happen. We try harder instead of going within and letting wisdom guide us. That's why this one is important to have lined up first. And it could be a prayer practice. It could be a meditation practice. For me, these days, I'm out in nature. Like, that just does it for me. Taking a hike, work up a sweat, and then I sit on a rock, and it's just the most awesome thing. So it may be, hanging out with your dog or your cat or your kids, or it's whatever it is that you do that has you feel that sense of awe that you're a part of something greater. And that's at the center of it all. So let us affirm together, I will to experience my oneness with the divine. Together, I will to experience my oneness with the divine. And I love how it says in the book of Romans, he says, he who searches the heart knows what the mind of spirit is, because he intercedes for the saints according to the will of God. This is divine will, that we know who we are as spiritual beings. It's at the core. Now, once we get that in place, we have our practice. Now we can expand into the second matryoshka doll, which is all about connection. That there is this divine calling within us that calls us not just to be solopreneurs on our spiritual journey, all in our heads and all, up on the mountaintop. We're called to be in connection and in fellowship with each other. And isn't it nice to be able to come into a place like this and be surrounded by people of like mind, where you can share your journey and you can share what you're learning? Isn't that great? Yeah, isn't it great? Okay, good. I thought so. So connection is fabulous. Yesterday I was in Wichita Falls. I was speaking, and it was a luncheon keynote. And so I was eating lunch really quick with a group of people at a table, and I was telling them how I had flown in on Friday night, and my flight was late because of the storms that you had Friday night. And that's kind of all I said. And what was interesting is from there, they took the conversation, and the rest of lunch was everyone sharing their worst plane ride ever. That was the conversation of, near-death experiences on airplanes. And I thought, isn't it interesting how when we're not lined up, we connect at the level of our suffering, we connect at the level of our complaints. You know people that are like that? Because we don't have that connection with people where our point of connection is the magnificence of each other. And what are you up to, and what are you creating? That kind of connection is really important on our spiritual journey, to have that kind of support and community. I think in unity, we have got these 2 down. This is our strength. This is the love God, love each other. Great commandment right here. And I think we're really good at this. We're really good at being prayed up. We're really good at potlucks. Aren't we good at potlucks? We love to eat together. We love to hang out together. We love to sing together. And all of those are important. But that is not the end of the journey. There is more. So if you think of this as the inhale, these are the things that fill us up. Meditation fills us up. Prayer, music, all these things. And then the connection we have with each other, it fills us up. It's like a giant inhale. But you know what happens if all you do is inhale? Yeah, you pass out. Yeah, it's not pretty. So we have to exhale as well, and that's what this next one is. So the next one, as we expand and grow, let me do an affirmation for connection. Let's connect, let's affirm together. I will to celebrate the God in you. Together, I will to celebrate the God in you. And let's do it again. And this time as we do it, bring to mind, maybe look around the sanctuary and see someone where, you know, you don't have to freak them out or anything. Like, I'm praying for you. I'm praying for you. But just kind of bring them to mind, someone that you'd like to send a little extra love to. I'm going to see you in the hall after service. Aren't you going to be doing this? Praying for you. Praying for you. Think of someone in this room that you would like to affirm this for. And let us affirm together, I will to celebrate the God in you. Together, I will to celebrate the God in you. It feels good, doesn't it, that connection? So from there, we expand into this third. This is the eldest sister here. And this one represents compassion. And compassion is that willingness to be there for each other when we forget. You know, it's great to connect when we're all prayed up, but sometimes life happens and things show up that we aren't expecting, and it's nice to have people around us that have this heart for compassion to hold us in those moments so that we can lift ourselves back up. It makes me think of, Jesus calls Peter out to walk on the water. Jesus is out there walking on water. Peter says, can I do that? And he says, sure you can. Come on out. It's like that part of us that calls each other out. That's the connection. Connect with me at this level. And so Peter does, and there is that connection, but then the fear comes, and he starts to sink, and Jesus catches him. And that's the compassion. I want to connect with you at this level, and if you forget, if you fall into fear, I'll catch you so that you can be lifted back up, so that you can remember. And that's what compassion is about. There's a quote from Mother Teresa that I love. She was asked sort of the purpose of her work, and what she said was, every day I see Jesus Christ in all of his distressing disguises. Can you imagine going through your day and knowing that's your purpose? Every day I see Jesus Christ in all of his distressing disguises. To see the Christ in everyone and in everything, that is where compassion is born. Romans says, blessed are those who weep with those who weep. Because in doing so, we celebrate our oneness, that we're the same, we're all connected. And that's what compassion is. So let us affirm together, I will to see the Christ, I will to see the Christ in all of its distressing disguises. In all of its distressing disguises. That's what compassion is all about. But that's not the end. Beyond that, here's where we grow into this next discipline. This one is about, this mother here, is about community. And community maybe in a sense that you haven't thought of it before. So compassion, it's easy to be there for each other in our spiritual community. Community is looking outside of the safety of this community and going out into the world where sometimes, have you noticed that not everyone agrees with our philosophy? I don't quite get it, but for some reason, when you go out into the world and you start saying these new thought principles, have you ever had someone go, and roll their eyes and shake their finger and try to save you? You know? And so we feel the judgment of that. We feel the disconnection of that, and it can be painful. And so what tends to happen is we tend to hide, and I will speak for myself. Sometimes I tend to hide my faith because I don't want to feel the disconnection that it can create with people who think differently. So this spiritual discipline is about stepping out into the community fully authentic and true to your faith. It's not just about having a coat drive or a food drive or helping the women's shelter. It's about doing those things as an expression of the principles that we understand. So imagine, I see you doing this wonderful thing in July for the women. Imagine not just saying, here's some clothes and we hope you get a great job and we're here for you, but saying we're doing this because in unity we believe in our oneness. And I see the Christ in you, and I see your magnificence. Maybe you don't see it yet, but I see it, and I want it to look good. You know, when you go out into the world, hey, I want you to look great. And in doing this for you, I'm blessing myself because we are one, and that is what we believe in unity. And that's why we're doing this. And you see how then our service takes us to a whole new level of authenticity. Not trying to change anybody's mind, but just being able to communicate in a world where people think differently than us, who we are and what's important to us. So that's the community piece. So let us affirm for this one. Let's see, I got a good one for this one, I know. I will to express my faith. I will to express my faith through service to the greater community. Through service to the greater community. It gives us a chance to grow and to expand on our own journey as we are there supporting others in their journey. Make sense? Breathe it in. Don't stop breathing, right? Yeah, remember to breathe. So there's one more. Just when you think, wow, that's a lot, there's one more. And if you think of these two, compassion and community, as an exhale, you know, we have the communion and the connection that fills us up, and then we breathe out through our compassion for each other, through our service to the community. You know, when you focus on your breath and you're disciplined about it, how it allows you to breathe deeper. And that's what this one is about. This one is for challenge. And that is being aware of your spiritual journey, being aware of the spiritual progress you are making, being conscious of your spiritual path so that you're not only breathing in and breathing out, but you're breathing deeper and you're giving more because you're conscious of the process. So challenge is about, for us in our small groups, we always, at the beginning of a series, we do an assessment. Which of these do I want to focus on for the next 10 weeks? And at the end, we assess ourselves again with our group, like, how did I do? And then we set new goals and new goals and new goals. If you were to think back on your spiritual journey for the past year, would you be aware of your own growth? Challenge is that conscious awareness of, I am looking for my spiritual edge. I'm willing to go there. And then having an accountability process to see, am I really growing? One of my favorite Jesus quotes, I love it because it just doesn't sound like Jesus at all. What he says is, do not think that I have come to bring peace to the earth. What? That is not Jesus. He's like the peace guy, right? He says, do not think that I have come to bring peace to the earth. I have not come to bring peace, but a sword. For I have come to set man against his father, and a daughter against her mother, and a daughter-in-law against her mother-in-law, and one's foes will be members of one's own household. What? It kind of doesn't make sense until you really think about it. It's like, what is the great challenge? It's not always the people that we think are, out there that are our struggles. Sometimes the biggest challenge is being true to ourselves in the midst of those who love us. Our mothers and our fathers and our mother-in-laws. And it's like the greatest challenge is doing what we feel called to do when it scares them. And we love them so much and we want to please them instead of following our own calling. That's the sword, is to let go of all that so we can be true to ourselves. That's the challenge. And so let us affirm for this one, I will to expand my understanding. I will to expand my understanding and my experience of God. And my experience of God. It's that expansive process. So we have communion at the center, that little mustard seed that's there, aligned. We bring in our community. We serve that community in compassion. We go beyond that community and serve the greater community in service. And we challenge ourselves to do that more and more and more. The kingdom of heaven is the kingdom of expansion, perpetuation. We continue to grow and expand. So I invite you to think about, of these 5, which one calls to you? Is it this piece of challenge? Is it reaching out to the community? Is it compassion and being there for others in their times of need? Is it connection, or is it your communion process that maybe you need to kind of shape up a little bit? Think about what it is for you and decide for yourself what you can do to align that one with greater clarity and greater focus. Think about what it is for you. And when you know which one you've got, nod your head so I know you're actually doing it. Most of you did it. That's good. That's good. So my challenge is take this into your week. Take it beyond your week. If you're in small groups here at the church, share with them what you have chosen and check in with each other to see how it's going and how you're growing as you do this. I have a tool that I use with our small groups. It's a spiritual assessment survey. I call it our spiritual selfie. And whenever we do small groups, we always give this to our group to assess in these 5 areas. How are they doing? And then everyone chooses a place to grow, and then they go from there. So if you would like to receive it, it's a 6-page self-assessment tool. And I have an email list outside. And if you would like that, I will email it to you to save some trees. So it's a great thing to do to just kind of get clear on what am I working on, and then find an accountability partner or someone in one of your groups that you're with already, and check in with them about what they're working on, and be there for each other. So when I was way back in my early 20s, I got a little puppy, and his name was Ted. And he was a cute little puppy. He was a little Springer Spaniel. And he was full of energy, and, he'd bounce around, and I just loved it. I had gone through a divorce at that time. I had lost a job. My life was kind of falling apart, and I needed a dog to love me unconditionally. So I kind of encouraged the dog to, when I come home, and be like, "You're home!" And he'd jump all over me, and he'd kiss my face, and I'm like, "Yeah, somebody loves me." I kind of taught him that was a cool thing to do, which was great when he was a little puppy, but then he grew into a 50-pound dog. And I still loved him jumping all over me and kissing me. It was not quite popular with all the people that I invited to my house to have a dog that was like, "I'm so happy to see you," and like, boom. So I couldn't really whenever I'd have company, I'd have to put him in the other room, and he'd whine and cry, and it was just kind of a mess. So anyway, I met this guy down the road who is now my husband, and Sean has this amazing ability with dogs. He's like a dog whisperer. And so when he met my dog, he was, and the dog's like, "Okay." Like, really smart dog. And he taught me how to do that too. He taught me how to be with the dog in a way where that dog became the best dog. It was so disciplined. I could take it, I would take it to Home Depot because he would heel. He'd just stay, I could call him, I could take him anywhere. And it was so great because when I got to Unity of Wimberley and I founded that church, we lived at the church. So Ted naturally became the church dog. And because he was so disciplined, we were able to just let him out all the time just to do whatever he felt called to do. And so he became my associate minister. And he was always there. He made every staff meeting. He was, when I would be writing a talk, he'd come, he'd sit his little head on my lap while I was writing just to kind of vibe me some good information. He would always, he'd greet people on Sunday morning. As people were coming up, he'd give them a little tail wag, and then he'd work the room, totally work the room. Hello. He's great greeter. I remember I had someone come to church once. She said she was terrified of church, thought she'd never come to church again, and then she was greeted by my dog. And she was like, "This is awesome. I love this church." He's a good icebreaker. The kids loved him. He never missed a potluck. Don't forget the church dog at the potluck, right? My favorite Ted story, though, was when it was my first year there, and it was my first funeral. And I was meeting with the family of a woman who had died very suddenly and unexpectedly. And I had with me her ex-husband and her 2 teenage sons. And they were grief-stricken, as you can imagine. And I never done this before, didn't know what to do. So we're sitting out on the back porch at Unity of Wimberley, which looks out over the hill country. And I'm sitting there, and I have the kid sitting next to me, and Ted comes up, and he positions himself, he sits right between the 2 boys. And they were so grief-stricken, they had a hard time, it's a difficult process, they had a hard time even looking at me as we were making plans for the service. But every now and then they looked down at Ted, and he'd give them that little tail wag, "It's okay, it's okay." And you could just feel that it softened them, that it helped. In some way, it comforted them to have that dog there, just being there with that encouragement. It's going to be okay. So I share this story. If you ever go out to Unity of Wimberley, head out by the big oak tree overlooking the labyrinth, because there's a stone there for Ted the church dog. And that's where he would want to be, because that was his purpose. That was his calling, was to serve in that way. And I share the story because I think it's powerful to remember what's possible for us when we are disciplined in our spiritual life. It's those disciplines that we put into practice that allow us to express our passion and our purpose here on the planet. That we can't fully live into our purpose here if we don't have these disciplines in place. And so let us affirm together, thy kingdom come, together, thy kingdom, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. And so it is. God bless you, and thank you so much. Thank you.